During the Cold War, survival planning wasn't theoretical. Governments on both sides of the Iron Curtain assumed infrastructure would fail, fuel would be scarce, and civilians would be left to endure long winters with minimal support. In that context, engineers and civil defence planners searched for heating solutions that didn't rely on constant fuel, electricity or open flames. One of the most overlooked results of that thinking was a specialised thermal masonry system often referred to today as the heating brick, a dense, heat-retaining building block designed to absorb warmth when available and release it slowly without freezing, even in extreme cold. This wasn't a consumer product. It was a resilience strategy hidden inside walls. Why Cold War planners focused on thermal mass instead of active heating? Cold War survival doctrine assumed intermittent heat at best. Power grids could be destroyed. Fuel deliveries could stop. What mattered was not how hot a building could get, but how long it could stay above freezing without intervention. Engineers returned to an old principle with modern precision thermal mass. Dense materials absorb heat slowly and release it just as slowly. If a structure could be warmed briefly, that heat could be stored and rationed over many hours or even days. The heating brick was, a refined version of this idea. What made the Cold War heating brick different from ordinary masonry? These bricks were not standard clay blocks. They were engineered with higher density, controlled porosity, and mineral compositions optimized for heat retention. Some designs incorporated chamot, magnetite, or high iron aggregates that increased thermal capacity without compromising structural strength. The goal was simple. Once heated, the brick would resist rapid temperature loss. Even when external temperatures plunged well below freezing, the internal mass would stay warm long enough to protect plumbing, equipment and, occupants. In civil defence shelters, that difference could mean survival. How these bricks stored heat without cracking or freezing. Ordinary masonry can crack under rapid temperature changes. Cold War heating bricks were designed to handle thermal cycling. Their internal structure allowed gradual expansion and contraction, preventing stress fractures. Moisture management was critical. The bricks were engineered to remain dry internally because moisture freezes, expands and destroys masonry. By controlling absorption and encouraging vapor release rather than water retention, these bricks avoided freeze damage even in unheated periods. This is why they earned a reputation for, never freezing. So, where were these heating bricks actually used? They appeared in Eastern Bloc apartment buildings, military installations, underground shelters and remote research facilities. In some cases, entire stairwells and interior walls were built from thermal masonry to act as heat reservoirs. In other situations, bricks were integrated around stoves or communal heating cores. Heat was concentrated for a short time, then distributed passively throughout the structure. Residents often noticed that rooms stayed warm long after the heat was shut off. But, few really knew why. So, why did this technology fade from public awareness? As centralized heating systems became more reliable and energy got cheaper, passive heat storage just sort of lost its priority. Buildings started being optimized for quick warmth, not for endurance. And, lightweight materials began to replace heavy masonry to cut costs and speed up construction. The heating brick didn't disappear because it failed. No, it disappeared because modern systems simply assumed there'd always be continuous power. Cold War thinking assumed the opposite, How this principle still outperforms modern heating in failure scenarios. Modern homes, they heat air. Once power stops, warmth vanishes quickly. But thermal masonry heats the structure itself. When systems fail, heat decays slowly. In grid-down scenarios, a building with high thermal mass buys you time. Pipes don't freeze overnight. Indoor temperatures decline gradually. Occupants can conserve fuel and energy instead of reacting to crisis. This is not comfort engineering, it's survival engineering. How you can apply Cold War heating brick principles today. You don't need classified materials. The principle is accessible. Increase thermal mass inside insulated envelopes. Brick, stone, tile, concrete, and dense earthen materials all store heat. Place them where heat naturally concentrates. Around stoves, near south-facing walls, beneath floors that receive sunlight or radiant heat. Insulate outside the mass, not inside it, so stored warmth stays where you live. If you heat intermittently, even briefly, that mass becomes a battery. Why this matters for survivalists and cold climate builders. Fuel scarcity doesn't kill immediately. Rapid heat loss does. Cold War engineers understood this distinction. A building that cools slowly gives people choices. A building that cools fast forces panic. So thermal masonry doesn't actually replace heating, Instead, it stretches it. Basically, it makes every unit of energy work a bit longer. What the Cold War heating brick teaches us about forgotten resilience is honestly quite remarkable. This wasn't secret technology. It was practical knowledge shaped by worst-case planning. The lesson wasn't about fear, it was about preparation. Buildings can be designed to forgive failure, They can protect life quietly without moving parts, noise, or constant input. That is why the Cold War heating brick matters. Not as nostalgia, but as a reminder that some of the best survival tools are, in fact, built into the walls. If this deep dive into Cold War survival engineering added value to your understanding of history and preparedness, go ahead and subscribe to the channel for more serious, research-driven content. Share this video with fellow history enthusiasts and survival-minded viewers. These lessons were built to last.